Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on day 2 of the webinar, Becoming Leaders in Sustainability Education. I'm Hilary and I'll be the MC for this webinar. So this webinar is part of the HEAD Foundation's Making Headway series, the HEAD Foundation's suite of teacher professional development offerings. This is the 6th series that we've been doing. We have 5 past other series on different topics. Feel free to check out our website for more information. So before I begin, I'll just make some announcements. First, we have simultaneous translation of this webinar into both Indonesian and Vietnamese. We are so sorry for the technical oversight in labeling the rooms. So if you are listening in Indonesian, please join the room labeled Korean. It will be in Indonesian. And if you're listening in Vietnamese, please join the room labeled Khmer. The instructions are in the chat, so please click your preferred audio channel by clicking the interpretation icon. Yep. All right, I'd also like to preface to our English audience that because we have simultaneous translation today, our speakers may speak a little slower to allow them to catch up, and there may be some pauses throughout the webinar to ensure that everyone's on the same page. So we do ask for your patience. And finally, we do have certificates of attendance for this webinar for people who attend both webinar sessions fully. The link to register for the certificate will be available once you submit the post-webinar survey. So after this webinar ends, Zoom will direct you to the post-webinar survey. And after you submit that, there'll be a link for you to register for your certificate. So do look out for that. Okay, there are 2 ways that the audience can engage with this webinar. If you were here yesterday, you'll be familiar with this. The first way, we have a very interesting webinar Padlet. So the moderator, Dr. Trisha, will talk a bit more about this later on. However, you can just go ahead and scan the QR code or click on the link. I think it will also drop it in the chat box. Yep. So the Padlet is a great way for audience members to engage with the panelists and with the moderators because we are unable to turn on the chat for you guys in a webinar function to avoid flooding everybody. And the second way that you can engage with the audience and with the panelists and moderator is to put your questions in the Q&A box. So the Padlet, please engage with that throughout the webinar. And if you have questions directed for the panelists, please type them in the Zoom Q&A box. We will address this at the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. All right, a brief run through of today's schedule. We'll have the opening introduction. Our first presentation will be from Dr. Trisha herself, the webinar moderator, who will share a bit more on a card game she and a few friends have developed to teach students about climate policy. We then have 2 presentations by our panelists, Ms. Divine and Ms. Aswani, before having a short break. And finally, we'll hear from Mr. Zuwaini from Brunei, and then we'll move into the Q&A section. So throughout the whole session, please do engage with us. We will have a much more fun and engaging session if you also put your comments and thoughts in the Padlet and share anything you'd like to with us in the Q&A. And finally, this webinar, as you know, is also based off the handbook that the HEAD Foundation has produced. The book is free for download. Please scan the QR code and download the book on our website for free. We are also opening orders for the hard copy. There will be a small fee involved. So all the details will be in the form. So this webinar is really an extension of the handbook where you can, we really invited 6 panelists to share their experiences crafting ESD lessons. However, a lot more detail and a lot more resources are available in the book, so feel free to download it and please order a hard copy for yourself if you think it's really helpful for you. All right, and finally, I think I will invite our moderator, Dr. Trisha, to begin the session properly.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. It's lovely to be in this online space with like-minded people who care about sustainable development. Let me just share my screen right now. Okay, I trust you can all see the screen. So yesterday we had, can I just check that you can see the screen? Yes?
Yes, we
Okay.
can see it.
Thank you, Hilary. All right, so yesterday we had a very diverse and dynamic session on what it means to design well-integrated curricula that is interdisciplinary, systematic, and effective. And we had examples from the Bhutan Baccalaureate curricula, as well as the Green School in Bali. We also began our conversation about the types of dialogues that support learning about education for sustainable development with a presentation on nature-based solutions from Cần Thơ, Vietnam. And we focus on the 4 points you see on the slides as key elements in an effective ESD lesson. In general, a good lesson in education for sustainable development contains the following elements: direct relevance to students' lives and contexts. So it will have to be based as closely on the community that the students live in as far as possible, rather than dealing with abstract knowledge based on contexts that are really far away from where the students live. Secondly, there needs to be opportunities for students to actively engage with the learning resources, as opposed to learning through didactic teaching. Teachers also need to scaffold tasks to guide students in making sense of the content. So students shouldn't just be passively listening to what the teachers are saying, but they should actually be given opportunities to interact with the resources. And finally, there should be opportunities for students to demonstrate what they have learned through the tasks that we set. So in the presentations that you will see today, we will be showcasing examples of innovative pedagogies that have the 4 elements that we see on the slide. And we also hope that these will then be able to inspire learning and motivate your learners. They also highlight that pathways for students to articulate or reflect on their individual and community values are really important as well, because ESD is really tied in with the idea of values. Okay, so I've done the introduction, but I would like to remind you that it would be really great if you could share your thoughts and ideas with us as you listen to the presentations using the Padlet link provided here. Yesterday, there was a lot of conversation around the different presentations in the Padlet itself. So I would like to show you, in case you were not with us yesterday, how to use a Padlet. So you can scan the QR code you see here, or you can use the Padlet link that has been put into the chat. Type that into your browser, and it will take you to this page. Now, when you get to this page, you can think about what you would like to share. So for instance, if you have been inspired by something and it connects with something that you are already doing, hey, the presenter is doing this and I'm also using something similar, please feel free to click this button, right? And then share what you think with us. Let me show you how it works in a little while. Next, if there's something that you've learned that was new and you'd like to talk about it, please click this button. Anyway, not to worry about the actual buttons. As long as you put your ideas on the web page, we will respond to it. Finally, if you have any ideas that you think you can use in your classrooms, please go ahead and share that with us too. So let me give you an example of how you can upload your ideas and your thoughts into Padlet. Let's say you want to say something about an idea that you want to use in the classroom. You just need to click on any of these plus signs and it will open up this page and you can say something. Let's say you say ABC, right? Just click publish and you can actually see your comment coming out over here. Now, if you are looking at the Padlet and someone has said something that you really like, so you really like what what this person who typed this has said, please feel free to heart it to show that you think it's a great comment. And if you want to comment on it, just click on add comment and maybe you can say 1, 2, 3. Click on this and your comment will be posted. And this is one of the ways in which you can really engage one another as members of the audience while you are listening to the presentations. Okay, let me just go back to the slides now. Okay, I think that now what I will do is I will introduce the different panelists who will be presenting with us today. Oops. Okay, I will be the first presenter for today, as mentioned by Hilary, and I'm the co-chair of the Sustainability Lab at the National Institute of Education. Our next panelist is Ms. Divine Mercy, who is a faculty member of De La Salle University Integrated School in the Philippines. Joining her on the panel, we have Ms. Aswani Mathawi from the Narathiwat School in Thailand. Our final panelist is Haji Muhammad Zuwaini from the Mahat Islam Arabic School in Brunei. Thank you all for taking the time to share your experiences with us. Okay, back to sharing the screen for me. Okay, so I'm going to kick off this segment with a presentation on how to get students to inquire into climate policy through a game format. My presentation will not be as detailed as some of the other presentations because we will actually be planning a workshop around the game for educators who are interested, and we will be sharing the details with you at the end of the presentation. However, if you can't wait till then, you can also find out more in chapter 2.1 of the handbook. Okay, let me begin by introducing the Sustainability Learning Lab. We are a research center at NIE, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and we have a mandate to do the following. First, we conduct research on sustainability and sustainability education with a focus on Asia. Second, using this research that we have conducted, we develop pedagogies and curriculum materials for sustainability education. We also engage in community outreach efforts. You can find out more about the Sustainability Learning Lab on page 346 of the handbook. Of course, you can also reach out to me through email anytime. I would be very happy to hear from you and take your questions. Okay, onwards with the game itself. Now, gamification in education involves using game-like elements in instruction to increase student involvement and improve learning outcomes for students. The objective of gamification in this case is to engage students cognitively and emotionally to enhance learning and understanding of, in this case, climate policy issues. Now, climate policy can be really dry for students to learn, and there are many, many policies. So we hope that through this presentation, it will help you to appreciate the use of game design as an approach to science communication, specifically communicating policy and making it accessible to youths or other learners. Okay, the context behind the development of this game really is in Singapore's goal to meet its target of getting to net zero by 2050. Now, every other country in the world has some kind of target as well, although the details might vary. So the purpose of getting to zero, the card game, is really to help learners find out more about climate policy options, as well as the trade-offs involved when you choose one policy rather than another. How do governments, or how might governments therefore make decisions about which policy option to select? So this game is really about understanding the measures that a country can implement as it moves towards net zero greenhouse gas emissions. So net zero really refers to the balance between the amount of greenhouse gases produced and released into the atmosphere and the amount of greenhouse gases removed from the atmosphere. Um, and the idea is that we would like a situation where both are in balance. Okay. The game itself consists of two main types of cards. The first set of cards are policy cards that illustrate policies that either make global warming worse, or they are policies that allow us to use alternative sources rather than fossil fuels as a form of energy. Policies that reduce carbon emissions, policies that actually increase energy efficiency, or carbon sinks, right? And policies that enable us to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. The game also includes power cards. The power cards here are cards that add additional elements of strategy for the users, and it enriches gameplay. Now, how do students play the game? The premise is really quite simple. Students play the game with the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions as much as possible while trying to spend as little money as possible. So they all start with 50 greenhouse gases, which they need to reduce. All right. And they start with 50 units of money, which they need to conserve. They then select the different cards that they want to play in each turn. So for instance, okay, this is the ASEAN Power Grid card, and this is the name of the policy. This part here refers to the policy description. So what is the ASEAN Power Grid? The two green and red boxes really tells you that if you play this card, it will reduce your greenhouse gas emissions by -5. If you play a card that has a plus in front, then it's actually going to add to your greenhouse gas emissions. If you play this card, it will cost you 5 units of money. Why? Because you're going to have to set up the infrastructure for the ASEAN Power Grid, and that costs money. So players basically just play different types of cards in an attempt to lower greenhouse gas emissions, to bring this number down, and to try to maintain this number as much as possible. After they've gone through a number of successive rounds, they will then calculate their impact on the economy and the amount of greenhouse emissions that have been brought down, and the winner is whoever has the greatest amount of emission reduction. If there's a tie, then the player with the most money wins. So it's a really simple game, and basically students are introduced to the policies and economic trade-offs right through gameplay. While they're playing the game, students will also ask questions, and this can become the focus of discussion later, which allows us to have very student-directed learning. So here are some of the comments by students. You can read more about them in the book. The role of the teacher is really important in gamification. So after playing the game, teacher can dialogue with students about specific policies or cards. They can talk about the trade-offs and consequences of choosing one card, one policy, rather than another. They can get students to reflect on which policy is applicable to their country or their community, and also get students to reflect on their own learning through playing the card. Perhaps as an extension activity, students can also think of a policy which they can contribute to, and this can form the basis for taking action in the next lesson or in future. We've played this game with a different target audience, a quite varied audience, from students in universities to, school students, to pre-service teachers, to teachers who are actually teaching geography and STEM subjects, as well as working adults who are interested in sustainability issues. So far, it's worked for a lot of age groups, so I hope that you will find that something like this is useful to you too. And if you think this game might be useful, you might want to sign up for the Getting to Zero workshop, which we will be holding online on the 27th of October. This workshop will be held in English, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to register, or click directly into using the bit.ly link that is in the chat at the moment. The HEAD Foundation will get in touch with you to make arrangements for the workshop. All right, I'm just going to leave this screen on now while I introduce our next speaker, and then I'll hand the floor over to Ms. Divine Mercy. Ms. Divine Mercy will share how her team designs history and social studies lessons, which showcase the clever use of technology for learning. You can find out more as well by referring to chapter 2.4 of the handbook. Ms. Divine Mercy is a faculty member at the junior high school at De La Salle University Integrated School. She is currently teaching Asian history under the social science department. She's also pursuing her master's degree in social science education at Philippine Normal University. As a certified Apple teacher and Microsoft innovative educator, she is skilled in integrating technology both in content and pedagogy, and we are really pleased to invite her to share her expertise with us now. Over to you, Divine.
Good afternoon and hello everyone. Let me share my presentation. All right. I believe the presentation is now visible to everyone. So let me start. Thank you. Let me start by introducing the title of my presentation. My presentation is entitled Addressing Inequality for a More Sustainable World. So let me first introduce a background. Our institution is De La Salle University. I teach in the integrated school. Specifically, it's located in the Laguna, Philippines. We are a private secondary school. I handle students in grade 7 junior high school, where our class is around approximately 30 students per class. So again, I'm Ms. Divine Go, a social science faculty. So let me start with introducing our topic, where we will be able to integrate the Sustainable Development Goals by understanding the colonial history of Southeast Asia. Most often, we discuss the colonial history of the Southeast Asia by analyzing the reasons, methods, and impacts of the European imperialism to the countries in the Southeast Asia. And so in this topic, we were able to determine as well the part of the UN SDGs in addressing contemporary issues rooted in colonial history of the region. And so we focus on the impacts of the imperialism that we can observe as evident in the present time, which allows us to determine the role of the SDGs in order to address these present issues. And so let's start by showing the outline of how the lesson can actually be implemented and be discussed in a classroom setting. So in our class, we started by a preliminary activity, which is a map analysis in order to elicit the prior knowledge of the students about our topic. And the second part would be a lesson proper, where we were able to conduct a collaborative learning activity where the students will be able to gather information and present their task to everyone on their classmates. And the third part would be a facilitated discussion where students would be able to listen to the teachers as we process the activity and emphasize on the important concepts that they were able to encounter in doing the activity. And to end the lesson, of course, we have to synthesize and to reflect what are the possible applications of our lesson to real-life experiences as the students encounter these lessons in their real-life situations. So let me give you an overview of how these topics and these activities were implemented in the classroom. So the first activity would be the map analysis. So just an overview, we use the learning application, which is the Google Jamboard. It is a tool or an application used by teachers and the students as well in order to facilitate a creative and collaborative activity. And so in the first part of the activity, we ask the students to analyze the given map to identify the countries or the regions in the color dark green, and at the same time, to identify also the countries in the yellow and orange or red colors. And so by identifying these countries, the students were able to familiarize themselves and to build their schema of how they previously know or how they used to know about these countries and regions. And in the second part or the second page of the Google Jamboard, we ask the students to describe what they know about these countries based on their historical context, and in the present time, how do they get to know or what do they know about these countries and region. And so by doing the activity or by analyzing the map, the students would be able to come up with a concept that this map implied to us. And that would give us, or that would lead us to the concept of economic inequality in our world today. And this question would be the main focus or the question to ponder that we will give to the students at the end, that they have to answer or that they can answer this at the end of the lesson. So let's go to the next activity. The second one would be a collaborative activity in order to discuss the topic. We will also be using a Google Jamboard. So in this activity, I'd like everyone, or I invite everyone to participate so that we can also try how a Google Jamboard tool or application can be used by our students in the classroom. So you may access the link or scan the QR code given in the presentation, and that would lead you to access the Google Jamboard activity. So perhaps I will allow a minute for you to be able to access the activity. So we can go and we can see the questions posted in the Google Jamboard. So once you are able to go to the Google Jamboard, you will see the posted question where everyone is encouraged to participate and answer. So in order for me to introduce the topic, we will be starting with the reasons for colonialism in the Southeast Asia. And so students may give their reasons by researching in the internet or accessing the internet so that they can look for information that they may use to answer the Google Jamboard activity. So let's see and go to our Jamboard activity to see if you were able to use and answer the posted question. So the students can freely use any tool, as you can see in our presentation. We have the sticky note tool here. We have the sticky note tool on this side. We also have the add image tool on this side, where you can research for images that shows the reasons for colonialism. And so in facilitating the lesson, we can give our students 2 or 3 minutes in order for them to identify and post their answers in our Google Jamboard. As we can see, this application encourages more participation and an interactive facilitation of learning for our students. So thank you everyone for trying out our Google Jamboard activity. I can already see answers from the screen, such as the religion, to spread their culture, get the resources, colonial powers, or the glorification of their powers. And that's very good. Thank you everyone for participating in our Google Jamboard activity. So I guess we can also move on to the next part. Now that we have seen how our Google Jamboard activity can be used to facilitate learning in the classroom, we can also cite other activities where we can group our students with different tasks that they can accomplish. So you can assign students or group of students in a particular page where they can accomplish this task. As a sample output, we were able to assign different activities to our students. Let's say, for example, for group 1, they are asked to color and identify the countries that are colonized in the Southeast Asia. And so this was the output of the activity. For another group in the class, they were asked to find or to look for the causes and reasons of imperialism in the region, such as what we did a while ago. And for other groups, they are asked to draw, where we also have the drawing tool in the Google Jamboard. So the Google Jamboard offers a variety of tools where we can require our students to apply and to answer different questions that would be helpful to facilitate our discussion. So thank you again, everyone, for participating in the Google Jamboard. We may now go back to the Zoom meeting to continue our presentation with other activities as overview of the topic. And so after the activity, we can continue by answering now the previously question to ponder and synthesize the topic now that the students were able to analyze and to provide learnings about their topic. And with that, we can conclude from our discussion and we can relate how historical processes are still affecting the present time, specifically the region of Southeast Asia, where most of the countries were under the rule of the imperial powers. And so economic inequality that we observe in the world today is a dependent outcome of the historical processes such as colonialism. And lastly, for us to synthesize the topic, we can have a reflective activity. And by this activity, we were able to integrate the role of the Sustainable Development Goals. Specifically, we can cite a specific goal that is related to the problem that we were able to identify with our topic. And that comes out with the role of the reduced inequality within and among countries, where we ask the students how can they contribute in achieving the SDG, specifically number 10, in order to reduce inequality within and among countries, as we discussed as a result of imperialism in the region. And here are the sample responses of the students. We can actually pose this question as an asynchronous task or as assignment for them to ponder on, and they can later show or discuss or share their answers, reflection to the class. So here are some of their answers. How were they able to contribute and spread awareness on the present issues and the role of imperialism and how it is affecting in the present time, and specifically the global goals that is very relevant in addressing these issues today. Some more recommendations, other than specifically focusing on SDG 10 or inequalities in the world, we can also use or cite other SDGs related to the topic, where we come out rather than or other than the inequality in the region, we also were able to identify environmental depletion, wars and conflict, and cultural differences as impacts and results of imperialism that are still evident in the present time. And so we can also cite other SDGs that are relevant to address these pressing issues in the present time, such as SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, and SDG 15, life on land. So here are other SDGs that we can also integrate in order to facilitate the topic. Lastly, an activity that we were able to accomplish is an assessment of how the students in our class were able to apply their learning, not only in the four sides of our classroom, but they were able to transfer this learning inside the classroom to other students as well, where they are asked to organize and conduct an advocacy awareness campaign to other students in our partner communities around the school and our Laguna City. And that provides them an interaction with grade school or elementary students, which are younger than our grade 7 students, where they are the ones who teach and raise awareness on these pressing issues and how were they able to teach SDG and its role in addressing these issues that we are experiencing in the present time. So the advocacy awareness campaign is a good avenue for the students, not only for them to know about this SDGs and issues that we are experiencing, but also to raise awareness and to share the knowledge that they learn to other students as well. So let me end my presentation of the possible and sample strategies where we can integrate SDGs in our social science class. And so let me cite a quotation from Irina Bokova, the previous Director General of UNESCO, where she said, "Education brings sustainability to all development goals." And so education plays an important role on how we can raise awareness on the role of the SDGs in the present time. And so we use also this strategy in order for us to introduce SDGs to our students and for them to also raise awareness about this topic to other students. And hopefully, we were able to attain our objectives in determining the role of the Sustainable Development Goals and how we can address and contribute in achieving these goals in the present time. So thank you, everyone. That ends my presentation for today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Divine Mercy, for that excellent presentation. Yesterday, we had in the Padlet discussions as well as in the Q&A, members of the audience who asked whether there is a role for subjects beyond STEM subjects in sustainability education. And there were also questions about whether sustainability education or ESD is only relevant to environmental education or focus on the environment. And from your presentation, it is quite obvious to us that it goes far beyond that. History teachers, social studies teachers, and teachers teaching in other subjects also have a role to play in ESD. So thank you so much for your lovely presentation, where you also showcased to us the seamless use of technology within ESD lesson. I will now share my screen in order to talk about the next segment of sustainability education. In our book, in our Making Headway book, in Becoming Leaders in Sustainability Education, we basically focus on 3 different components. The first is the development of good curriculum for ESD. The second, which you have just watched, is the development of pedagogies for ESD. Now we move on to our last segment, which is really the whole point of ESD, developing habits of mind, skills, and dispositions in students to become active citizens of the future who can also take action for sustainable development. So providing students with opportunities to take action is really important because they then develop the skills on how to act that go beyond merely learning content. Now, additionally, because taking action requires knowledge of the context in which they have to act, so students have to actually go out of the school to engage with their physical environment as well as with the communities that they live in. Not only does this have the potential to build students' place-based knowledge, right, of their physical environment, of their social environment, it can also help foster a sense of responsibility and attachment towards their own communities. When people care, when people are empowered with the tools to act, they are more likely to be motivated to take action and to advocate for sustainable development in the future. Now, since we are on the topic of acting, I would like to remind all of you that we would love for you to join us and engage in the Padlet. Type in your comments. For those of you who are joining us in the translation rooms, please feel free to type your comments in your own language. Your translators will translate them back in English so that we will also be able to interact with your comments. Please do not feel that we will only accept comments in English. This is an inclusive, multi-language webinar. Now, moving on to our last two presenters. Our last two presenters show us how they involve students in addressing a sustainable development issue in their communities. Ms. Aswani Mathawi will kick off this segment to show us how she scaffolds students' learning to provide opportunities for students to engage with the communities who are impacted by rising sea levels. Please refer to chapter 3.3 for more information. Ms. Aswani graduated from Thammasat University with a major in linguistics and has been teaching since 2005. Currently, she is responsible for teaching English to grade 12 students and managing the intensive English program at Narathiwat School. Ms. Aswani, the floor is now yours.
Hello, everybody. Let me start with sharing the screen. Okay. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aswani Mathawi, English teacher from Narathiwat School, Thailand. I'm honored to be here to present you and share with you the STEM lesson of our school on the topic of the coastal erosion defense. This STEM lesson was developed by 2 science teachers, 1 mathematics teacher, and 2 English teachers. And my team is also with me now. And the aim of developing the lesson is to be the pilot project for the STEM education of Narathiwat School. This project was under supervision of Semio STEM Ed Thailand and NIE Singapore. And from this project, we have learned a lot with the great support from the experts from 2 countries. And we learned how to develop the lesson that engaged the community and how to implement it according to our context. Now, let me give you the background of Narathiwat School. As you can see in the map, the Narathiwat School is located on the Thai Bay side, and the school is only just a meter away from the seashore. And less than 10 years ago, actually at the backyard of the school, there was a village and also many mangrove forests. But nowadays, there are no more village, and also the mangrove forest is gradually disappear. And as you can see, the bigger picture of the barrier, that one was built by the government at Narathat Beach, which is a bit near to the school. The reason why I show you this picture is to make to compare to you about the then and now picture. As from that barrier that was built in Narathat Beach, it was bring the sediment and it caused the erosion of the school shore. And as you can see in the now picture, you'll see that there are groins that were just recently built by the government as well. And it also caused the change of the sea level of the level of the seawater, which make it the seawater getting shallow now. And also the quality of the sea level is also changed. And it's affect the living thing in the water at the backyard of our school. And now to prevent the erosion, the school also, has built the cement at the shore. And sometimes when the students have a free time, they went there for the seaside. And that is the background of the topic that we get. After we get the background that based on the problem that we had, we analyze about the content that we are going to use in the STEM lesson. For the science, the student have to study about the wave property, and they have to analyze about the anatomy of the wave, and they have to learn how the width of the slip change the wave energy. And for the mathematics, here they have to calculate about trigonometric ratio and as well as the volume. And for the technology part, they have to practice how to use tools for the data collection, experiment, and they also have to study about the web through the PET program, which you can refer to the handbook on page 200 and 302. You can scan that. And for the engineering, they have to learn how to design and build a prototype. And after we got the topic and the content, and now it's time to find a target group. And with the meeting with the curriculum department and the teachers, we had decided to implement the lesson with the 11th grade student from the mathematics and science program. Since the web property is in the curriculum for this level, and also the student already have some background knowledge of earth system science, so we think that this will facilitate them to learn about this topic easily. After we get the topic and the target group and the contents, we have decided on the teaching approach, and we decide to choose the problem-based learning since we start out our lesson with the problem that we had, and we design our lesson in 20 hours and implemented it, divided in 4 stages and implemented it in 3 places. The first one is the classroom, which is we teach the student for the stage 1 and some part of the stage 3, and the field trip, the field trip for the stage 2, and 1-day activity, which we deliver the lesson on the stage 3 and 4. And the reason why we use the 1-day activity for the lesson is to facilitate the continuum of the learning for the students, since they have to build the prototype. And now I'm going to discuss about the teaching technique that we frequently use in the lesson. And first of all, let me introduce the man as you can see in the picture, the man in the red shirt. He is our deputy director. We invited him to give the speech to the students in the first period to emphasize the importance of the lesson and how the student can help to solve the problem of their own community through the lesson, and also to make the students see the picture how the lesson in the classroom relate to the outside world. Now I'll come back to the teaching technique that we use. The first one, the question. In almost every activity, we have the question a lot, and it's generated both from the teacher and the students. Why we use a lot of questions? Because we think will promote student critical thinking. Let me give you some example of the question that generate by the teacher. You can refer to in the handbook on the page 294, and we prompt the student with this picture. As you can see, the seashore at the back of our school. And we asked them the question, what do you think will happen to the coastal area behind the school in 20 years? And of course, they have to think about the answer in groups. And the question that generated from the student, we have prepared them before the field trip. And the student have to create their own question through brainstorming activity. And we also use the guided question for them to prepare how to build the idea for them to build a prototype, which you can refer to the handbook as well on page 308. We use the essential question for them to have the idea what are they going to do with or how they are going to build the prototype, which is who are your clients, what is the problem, and what is the solution to the problem. The next activity that we use is the discussion. We make sure that in every feedback stage of each activity, we try to have the discussion. As the reason is for the teacher is the time for the teacher to check the student understanding about the lesson, and as for the student, is the platform for the student to share and exchange their idea, as well as they have a chance to build their confidence about that and practice the communication skills. And also in the lesson, we really want them to practice the scientific investigation, which is there are many activities that we have them practice this skill, especially in the field trip and also in the process of checking the effectiveness of their prototype. The scientific investigation will make the student improve, like they have to come up with their own research and finding to prove their hypothesis. And in this lesson, we also involve the community and the career, introduce the career to the student. We have brought the community to the field trip. Like, okay, we brought the student to the community by in the field trip, which is the student have to learn about the problem of coastal erosion from the community leaders, villagers, and also how the government already have the solution which the student can learn from the field trip through with the engineer. And next one, I'm going to talk about how we implement the lesson, which is I have two stages that I will discuss here. The stage one, introducing the problem and context. Over here, you will see the scenario that we give to the student. This one, this is to contextualize the lesson by having a role play assign them to be engineer who have the mission to solve the coastal erosion problem. The reason why we give the scenario like this is to emphasize the role of the lesson to the students, and also for the students to have the whole picture of what they have to do in the lesson. As you can see, the keyword that we have, they have to build a structure to prevent coastal erosion, which is durable, friendly to the environment, and also appropriate to the community context. I think this really worked well because the students feel challenging and fun since they have to accomplish the mission together with their teams. And next one is the highlight of our lesson. Of course, when you bring the student to the field trip, they will learn in the real situation. But the most important thing, the student learn, acquire, and practice every objective that we have planned without forcing, like they learn naturally. For example, they have a hands-on experience, which they have to practice how to use tools and even have to solve the problem on site. And they have a chance to improve their collaborative skills with the teammate and with among the classmate. And also they have a chance to practice the communication skill. They not only communicate with the classmate, but bring them to the field trip. They have to talk with community leaders and also with the villagers, which they have to get more information about the problem. And from what I observed, the learning experience that they got from the field trip really make them motivate to do more research, which that derive from themselves. And the next stage that I'm going to talk about is the communicating the solution to the problem. Over here, we have the student do the mock cell competition in one-day activity. Since in real life, the engineer have also have to pitch the project as well. So we want them to experience the same. So in this competition, we have invite other teachers and also the real engineer who went to the field trip together with us. And we have 2 rounds of presentation, divided is team that have 4 members into pairs. The reason behind this is to make sure that every student have a chance to be the presenter, which means that they can practice answering the question. And they take turn to be the buyers, so they have a chance to answer the question. In this competition, in this mock cell competition, they have to apply everything that they have learned in the lesson to convince the clients based on the finding from scientific investigation. The result, as you can see in the presentation, they have the result from the shot together with their prototype. And over here, I will show you some example of the student prototype. The first one, which you can see the prototype with the coral dome here, the idea behind this, not only to decrease the wave energy, but the student said that to nurture and make it as a helpful small living thing, which is really reflect the concern that they have about the environment. And for these 2 prototypes, as you can see the design, you will see the space between the barrier. The concern of the student have behind this, that they want to facilitate the fishermen who have to bring the boat out for fishing. And the result, after the learning the STEM lesson, the students share the learning experience about the problem of the environment in the school in the social science project with their junior, and they also want to do more research by join the science student confidence. They were able to complete the mission. They were able to complete the mission, and they all have different solutions to the problem. And more than that, they feel that they are part of community, who the community wants to share the problem with them and even encourage them to come up with the solution. And I think this lesson, not only the student can learn and make them to be the active learner, but from this experience, sustainable lesson. Yes, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aswani, for that presentation. What we really took away, or what I took away from your presentation, is the importance of the importance of the interdisciplinary nature of work related to ESD, even in the classrooms. So we have, for instance, English teachers like yourself working with science and math teachers, geography teachers, implementing this lesson. Now, on top of that, the other thing we noticed, and which also came up in many of our discussions yesterday, is the importance of close engagement with the community when we implement ESD lessons, or if we want to take action for the environment. I think that these points are really coming across, and I thank you for these invaluable points that really support or drive home the importance of community engagement and interdisciplinary work in ESD. I would like now to take a moment to visit our Padlet, okay, and talk about some of the points that were brought up by members of our audience. The first point really is another comment about the interdisciplinary nature of work that we do in ESD. We have a comment here about integrating sustainability in general education courses in higher education, and more specifically, the use of mathematics or applying maths in culture and society in ESD. Now, I think that's a really great point. Every subject teacher has a role to play in ESD. And in yesterday's discussion with Dr. Josh Ho, who did the presentation on nature-based solutions and ecosystem services in Vietnam, one of the points that really comes across as well is that while our students learn about, nature-based solutions, if these solutions are going to be persuasive to the governments or to politicians to actually conserve natural spaces, then those of us who are trying to conserve natural spaces need to speak the same language as policymakers. And sometimes that involves showing them the hard numbers. So certainly calculations of ecosystem services, calculations of the impact of conserving natural spaces rather than paving them over and building yet more condominiums or shopping malls are truly important in environmental impact assessments. So really thank you for that comment. I think it's a really useful one in really highlighting how every subject is important when we talk about sustainability education or education for sustainable development. We also have another comment from Dr. MP from the Philippines, who spoke about the value of the handbook in helping those of us interested in engaging more with ESD. So if you haven't yet done so, please go ahead and download the handbook and take a look at it, especially visit the chapters that were presented today, and also all the other chapters. We really hope that they can inspire you or provide a springboard for your practice. Finally, we also have a comment from Doria from Malaysia, who's hoping that she can find partners to play the Getting to Zero game with so she can attend the workshop. Doria, I really hope you're successful and that you will be able to participate with us in a cross-national conversation about climate policy and climate policy options. For those of you who are also interested to join this workshop, please do visit the website and indicate your interest to the HEAD Foundation. I think that in the chat, all of the links have been reposted. We have another comment on integrating ESD in English language teaching at tertiary level and the possibilities of that. Certainly, I think that Ms. Aswani has already shown the important role that English teachers can play, and even in higher and even at tertiary level, I think the ability to communicate climate science, the ability to write or communicate and persuade people of the importance of conservation, the importance of going beyond the environment perhaps, but also to look at issues of inequality, poverty, so on and so forth. It really does involve us being able to write well, to speak well, to write persuasive pieces, and English language teaching at the higher levels is certainly, or in any language really that is relevant to your context, is really important. So language teachers, you have an important role to play as well, not just in environmental education, but in every aspect of ESD. Okay, I think that it is timely now to take a short break. Let's have a 10-minute comfort break before we return for the next presentation and for the Q&A this afternoon. I'll hand over the slides or the sharing screen to the HEAD Foundation. See you all in 10 minutes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the second part of today's webinar series. I hope you've had a good break and that you're ready for the next presentation, as well as to participate in a dynamic and interactive question and answer segment. Let me introduce our final speaker for the day. Our final speaker for this webinar series is Haji Muhammad Zuwaini, who will share with us how he teaches his students how to code and use information technology to tackle the issue of waste in the iconic Kampong Ayer community in Brunei. You can refer to chapter 3.4 of the handbook for more details. A geography teacher at Mahat Islam Brunei, with over 10 years of experience, Haji Muhammad Zuwaini has held many leadership positions within the school, including head of department for the general department. Currently, he serves as assistant teacher in curriculum, where he continues to play an integral role in developing and implementing the school's academic programs. Haji Muhammad Zuwaini, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to Dr. Tricia and also the HEAD Foundation for organizing this beautiful webinar. Hi, my name is Haji Muhammad Zuwaini bin Haji Aliani, representing Brunei and also my school, Mahat Islam Brunei. Before I start my presentations, let me introduce you about my school. Mahat Islam Brunei is actually an Arabic school which consists of primary school and also secondary school. We starting from grade or year 5 till year 11. So the age range of my student is between 10 to 17 to 18 years old. In this school, we use 3 languages. which are the Arabic, English, and Malay. And most of the students studied about 14 to 16 subjects per week. So the class will usually start at 7:30 a.m. and will be finished at 3:30 p.m. So talking about sustainability, usually it refers to the practice of meeting the needs and the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So in other words, it's involved in making decisions and taking actions to balance the economic, environmental, and also the social consideration to ensure the resources are managed in a way that ensure their availability and quality for a long term. So if you look from this slide, here is a beautiful historical places of Brunei, the traditional settlement of Water Village, also known as Kampung Air or Venice of the East. So from this picture, we can see the houses are built on stilts above the Brunei River, and most of the materials are made from wood and also zinc. And you can see there's a long wooded walkway. However, sadly, as we move near to the bank of the river, there are many rubbish deposited, which consists of plastics, you can see also woods, and also cans. NGO also play important role in combating this issue, together with the government and also with the general public, particularly in Kampung Air resident, with a multiple cleaning campaign had been conducted. So me and my student do research about this kind of pollution. So the basic reason for the problem to arise are because of, first, inadequate waste segregation practice that hinder the recycling effort. Second is because of the overcrowding of the rubbish bins along the walkway, which often attacked by the stray cat and dog and even the monkey. So this cause most of the rubbish fall to the river and cause water pollution. And third is because of accidents, example, because of the burning of houses or the collapse of the houses, which result the floating wood and also other debris can be found on the Brunei River. So we create a solution named ROD, which is stand for Rubbish on Demand. It is actually a transportation network apps that offer the fastest rubbish collection services, which aim to reduce pollution. Basically, this app is not only to tackle the water pollution in Kampung Air, but also can be used to tackle the land pollution. It's like a Grab or Uber or even that in Brunei Darussalam, but instead of taking people, we take rubbish. However, this app is still a prototype, and we make this app is because of joining a competition that tackle the environmental issue. So in Brunei, there are many companies that are willing to pick up the rubbish from houses to houses, but they only take it on certain days, example, twice in a week. But if using this app, people can pick their rubbish as soon as possible. So here are the objectives of Rubbish on Demand. So in this chapter, the student learn how to identify the environmental problem. They also use Meet App Inventor for basic coding and also design the features of their apps. Talking about curriculum developments, it refers to the process of designing and creating an educational curriculum, which encompasses of the content, the structure, methods, assessment strategies used in a specific educational program or course. It involves a thoughtful planning and also decision making to ensure that the curriculum effectively meets the learning goals and objective of the intended audience. Here, there are 4 stages in this section, such as the analysis, which involve in identify the problems, designing, development, and presentation. But here I'm only going to discuss it deep in development and also presentations. In terms of development, the third phase of the sessions, the student use Meet App Inventor to make this app, where some of the features you can see are the multilingual, use English and Malay. There also registration for both customers and also the green heroes. Green heroes refers people who are going to pick the rubbish at home. Where the green heroes, they need to submit some of the photos and also the valid driving lessons when they try to join this job. There are also account verification using email or even SMS, live tracking, QR code, and rating system. And the colorful here are actually the block that we use in making the apps working. And on the right side is actually the interface of the app Rubbish on Demand. Talking about the presentation, the fourth page, since this is competitions, so the student need to present their ideas and also concept in front of the judges. So I remember I'm the one who write down the script and ask the student to memorize all the words. And we also practice this in school, sometimes through video call, and sometimes even in my car on the way to the competitions. Students also learn about body gesture, perfect posture, and even a face expression so that they can feel confident when they try to deliver their speech. And if you can see from the picture, there was actually the props that I made until 2 a.m. in the morning for the presentation and also even the slide. Students also prepared well the answers when asked by the judges. And of course, the app should be there to show the judges how the apps works. So even it's a prototype, but it's still working. Talking about pedagogy approach, pedagogy here refers to the method or strategies or approach that used in teaching and education to facilitate learning and foster the development of knowledge, skills, attitude, and value in learners. Pedagogical approaches can be vary or different based on educational level, subject matters, cultural context, and even individual preference of educators and learners. So here there are three. First is the controversial pedagogy, which emphasize on the learning actively construct their understanding of the concepts. So educators, for me, example me, try to facilitate the process by providing the learning opportunities that allow the student to build up using their own existing knowledge. They are also collaborative, which I will explain later, indeed, and also integrative way student not only using Meet App Inventor to do this competition, they also learn using photoshoot, PowerPoint, and also map, even YouTube, just to accomplish this competition. Talk about collaborative learning, right? This approach promotes learning through group work and collaborations, where the students work together on the project, they discuss and do the activities together, which foster peer-to-peer learning and development of team work skill. And if you see from the slide, the 4 of them are actually my students. They are working together with the experts and some also with the NGOs. And usually we attend some of the workshop every Wednesday and also every Friday evening. Okay, in terms of the action, here is the interesting part. Okay, as a start, we actually joined a competition hackathon where we were given only 3 days to finish this app. It's very hard for us because last time we don't have ICT subject in our school, And luckily, students that I picked for this competition, at least they have the basic computers, and also they play video and also mobile games. We don't know how to do the coding, even dragging the blocks, either using from scratch or using Meet App Inventor. We start from zero and just use the knowledge that we learn from the experts, and 90% of it is actually from YouTube and also other internet sources. Our original app name is actually called Brooklyn, and we won the first place in the hackathon. And so we decided to join Brunei ICT Awards, or simply called VICTA, which was organized by the Authority of Info Communication Technology Industry of Brunei Darussalam, AITI. So here we meet many experts, many mentors, and also many NGOs. And we have done a lot of improvement on our apps. For example, if you can see from the name itself, we changed the Brooklyn into Rubbish on Demand. You can see there's different from the design and also the features. And we try to clean the to solve water pollution, but later we moved to land pollution in a big scale. All right. And later, after we also won a Victor competition in first place, and then later we joined international level called Asia Pacific ICT Award, APICTA, which held in Halong Bay, Vietnam in 2019, and we won the Merit Awards. Here are actually the interface or the product of our apps. There are registrations for both users and also for the green heroes, the one who pick up the rubbish. And for the customers, they need to select what kind of rubbish they want to get away. The metal, glasses, plastic, proper, or even mixed. And then they need to take the pictures of the rubbish and share the location so that the green hero can take the rubbish as soon as possible. So then what is next? Okay, after joining this competition, we were invited to give exhibition or showcase to His Majesty the Sultan twice, and also in front of the royal members, in front of the ministries, and we also invited to give speech and also motivations to other Arabic schools. And right now, our school are very active in joining competitions, it's either locally or internationally. And one of the latest program and still going on is actually the Asian Japan Youth Environmental Leadership Network in combating the plastic pollutions. So as a conclusions, understanding sustainable practice encourage the long-term thinking and planning. It helps us to consider the consequences of our actions on environment and society for years to come, rather than focusing solely on short-term gains. And I do remember from yesterday's speaker said, we are the problem, but we're also the solution. So be the solution, not the pollution. And thank you for joining us. That's all for my presentations.
Thank you so much, Haji Muhammad Zuaini, for that. I love your final statement, be the solution, not part of the pollution. That's a really, really catchy tagline. Thank you for your presentation as well. There's so much in there that we can talk about, but I really appreciate, your obvious hard work, working with the students till 2 a.m., working with them in your car, so on and so forth. I mean, that's real commitment. And I really appreciate the pedagogical approach that you're using. And I thought that it is worth reiterating the importance not only of integrating across subjects in sustainability education, but also the importance of allowing students to construct their own knowledge, which we've seen over and over again across the different presentations, as well as the importance of collaboration, whether students are collaborating with one another, or whether they're collaborating with the community, whether they're collaborating, even with engineers, so on and so forth. So I think that the presentations today have really pushed this idea forward again, and really built on the conversations and the themes that came out yesterday as well. So thank you so much for this, and also to all of our presenters. We've now reached the segment where we're going to invite our panelists to join me on the panel, and we will then take questions from the audience. So we already have Haji Muhammad Zuwaini on the panel with us, and also I would like to invite Ms. Azwani to join us, as well as Ms. Divine Mercy. Okay, so let's begin the Q&A section. Let's start with something about what has inspired you, to really work in this area of sustainability or environmental education. Would anyone like to go first? You've obviously put in a lot of time and effort in your lessons. So let's share a story about why you are interested to push this area of environmental education within what you are teaching. Okay, let's have Miss Aswani, and then Haji Muhammad Zuwaini, and then Miss Divine.
Okay, about bringing the class to the community, it's the suggestion from the expert that we work with in this project, and it worked out well, and we as teachers also learn a lot from that, and we can see the change and the pace that the student is quickly than they stay only in the classroom, because from the prototype that we observe from the students, it really reflects. And we know that they get the motivation from the field trip. They have many elements from the field trip have brought that to the classroom as well. So, and also the community, when the experts suggest us, we also because when you bring the student outside the classroom, you have to need a budget from that. So it's a bit hard for us to work on that, because when you do anything, it's the money is also something really important. So we have a lot of support from the school as well in every step of developing this lesson. Yes, that's it from me.
Thank you so much for that. Let's go over to Haji Muhammad Zuwaini.
Right, thank you. As a geography teacher, this is the only chance that I can bring my student outside from the class to think outside of the box, so that they experience and practice and know how to solve the problem, especially on environmental issue. I think this is the great chance for the student to develop their thinking. Right? Instead of learning in the class, learning the facts, why not bring them outside, try to tackle the problems. That's it from me.
Thank you so much for that. Miss Divine?
Hello, good afternoon. For me, as a history teacher, perhaps my motivation is that most of the time, history classes tend to be boring, or perhaps the students find least meaning in understanding or learning about historical events. And so in this time, we'd like to make the history teaching approach for the students to make it more interactive and enjoyable for them by integrating the use of technological applications, and of course, for historical processes to give meaningful experiences for them, as well as for them to be able to relate real life situations and how it was attributed to different historical processes. And by then, we can instill to the students at an early age that learning about history is as much as important as learning with other subjects as it impacts our lives in the present time.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing why you're interested in doing it. It could be personal passion. It could be because you see the value in your subject. And sometimes we just need a little nudge from, an external party as well as support from our schools. And that helps us to do the really important work. So building on what has just been said, there have actually been 2 questions that have come in related to what we've just said. But let me ask the first question. And that is, what are some of the, sometimes when you're trying to get students interested in sustainability education, have you ever experienced pushback or disinterest on the parts of the students? Why are they not interested, and what could we do to get them more interested in sustainability education? Would any of our panelists like to take this question? Ms. Aswani, do you have anything you would like to add?
Actually, in this STEM lesson, I have a chance to develop the lesson together with the team, but I'm not, English teacher is not the one who deliver the lesson. But during the delivering the lesson, I heard from the student, they feel like when we change the way, because we have a lot of the activity for them, they said that teacher is very difficult for us because you make us have to think every time, and we have to do our own research on every topic that you give us. Of course, we facilitate them with the materials, but because it's really changed the way they have learning. And I think the activity that really, how to say, if the teacher can design the lesson and make them engage in every step and make sure that everybody have that the task to do. So I think it will help to increase their motivation, even though they feel a bit, challenging. But when they work as a team, the team and the teacher facilitation and also teacher monitoring, I think it's really important for the student to help them learn.
Thank you so much. So really the importance of scaffolding them and getting them over these humps, right? Okay, let's open it up to Miss Divine Mercy next, and then over to you, Haji Muhammad Zuaini.
For that question, perhaps the challenge would be is that since students have little to no interest or perhaps knowledge about the sustainability and development goals, and that the lessons are integrating them into the topics that we discuss in the classroom would be able for them to identify the significance of these concepts and of course these issues in the present times and how it affects our daily life. And so these challenges that we encounter in the classroom by teaching the students is to keep their interest, for them to be more interested in topics or in concerning topics that has something to do with our world today. And so we can do that by applying or letting them reflect on how these concepts are evident in their own lives that they experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. And to our final panelists, how do you get your students to overcome their difficulties or their lack of interest in the issues?
Okay, usually in my class, I usually encourage my student to participate in any activities that involve in environmentals or even ICT competitions. And usually as a teacher should play important roles on helping the student, give them motivation in joining in any activities. For example, for myself, I usually divide the class into different groups so that they manage to do a teamwork. And also, even myself, I need to spend a lot of my time. Example, doing the prof until 2 a.m. So these make the student, surgeon, do a lot of work. Why don't we trust him? We do together. So this one, I want to inspire and motivate my student just to see how I work. That's it.
Thank you for that. So I guess ESD is challenging, right, for students as well as for teachers. And sometimes really it is the passion and the example of teachers that can really spark that interest in students and get them to go beyond what they feel like they can do in the classroom or that they have to do in the classroom. Another point that our fine panelists have brought up is the importance of focusing on collaboration and scaffolding it such that we help students to achieve the targets set. It is a lot of work, as we have observed, and really I think the teacher's passion in getting students to engage with what might be seen as difficult or more difficult ways of doing lessons is really important. So thank you so much for this. Your passion and your commitment and dedication is really, really appreciated. To all of you in the audience as well, who've been doing this type of work, kudos to all of you. Keep it up. I hope that this seminar or this webinar is helping to spark your enthusiasm and passion for sustainability education. We have an interesting set of questions that are revolving around the issue of traditional and modern ways of teaching and learning. So I'm going to just bring these types of questions together. So my question that for the panelists would then be, do you think that that we need to change the ways that we teach to incorporate more technology, or are traditional ways of teaching still relevant? First question. Second question, do you think the education system needs to change to adapt to modern learners? I know it's a big question, so we'll give you a little bit of time to think. Whoever's ready, just turn on your microphone and have a go at it. Ms. Aswani?
Okay. The first question about the traditional teaching and change into modern teaching and about the technology, right? Okay, I think it's really important. I don't know whether we have in Thailand, we also have the problem that we are going to change the way that teachers teach the teaching in the classroom, since we always being passive. I mean, it's not we in the past, our generation, mostly we being the passive student in the class. So it's a bit difficult for us as a teacher to picture how to change the way that we are going to teach our students nowadays. So from what we try to do in this project that we do with our team, we try to have we try with the lesson, try out the lesson with the micro teaching. So we observe each other and try to give the feedback in which part of the lesson that the teacher can make the student think more and less the explanation from the teacher. I think that one is also help each other. I mean, as a peer, we can help the teacher that way, because we and also when it's time to change our practice is a bit difficult for teacher as well. I think teacher also need time for that, and including with the technology, it's like how to say top up the difficulty for the teacher in that way. But I think when we how to say the professional PLC thing, I think that is really important. But what happened in Thailand is it's how to say the time and workload that we have is not really allow us to do a lot of PLC. But somehow I think PLC play the important role for the place for the teacher to develop themselves with each other. And what is the second question again? I forgot.
The second question is about whether the education system needs to change to adapt to modern learners.
I think yes, because the student, the new generation, they have different view of the world. And if the teacher not really learn about what they're thinking, you will have the gap. And it's difficult for us to really deliver thing that we want them to learn from our experience, because sometimes they say, oh, you know something that already old, but I know something that new. But I think the teacher will, if how to say, if we learn about the modern thing, we can be the bridge for the students to across between the new modern society and the world that we also, how to say, we grown up. Yes, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So difficult for us educators. We constantly have to adapt and change to changing circumstances, right? And okay, let's hear from our other panelists, whether there's anything you would like to add to this, or has Miss Aswani said it all?
Just to add more, so the first question is about traditional versus the modern educations. So traditional is like you chalk and talk technique, but now luckily in my school we are no longer using chalk and talk. We are actually encouraged to use technology. This can be included even as simple PowerPoint, simple quizzes using quizzes, or I forget the names, and also other technology, example Canva or everything. So I think this one is actually very important, not only for the student but also for the teachers to use it, because you are moving modern era now. So I think it's very important to use the technology. In answering the second questions, education system should be changed or adapt modern learners. I think I'm agree with Ms. Aswani, because it's to all, everything that all is belong to history now, and we are actually moving to a new era, so we need to adapt every technology. I think it's very important. Is it just like this kind of Zoom? Okay, we're able to talk because of the technology, and I think it's we need more technology. Even me as a geography teacher, I'm not going to learn about geography, but I also need to versatile or diversify my skill in the using of technology, example making apps or other kind of skill that needed. That's all for me.
Thank you so much for the very forward-looking conversation or dialogue about the role of education. Ms. Divine Mercy, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, I think for the first question, there is what we call this, a conflict between the traditional and modern strategies to education, which we need to address as we move forward, right? We experience different, or we get to meet different generation of students, and we have to face the fact that the generation of students that we have now in the present are more inclined towards the use of technology. In my personal experience, right, there are some instances where my students are more techy, or they know different apps, tools, gadgets than what I know, and we have to catch up on this gap that we have in the generation, in order for us as well to be able to meet what they need in the present time. And so as I apply this to my teaching strategies, I do creative presentations where students would be able to relate, or children as early as high school students would be able to relate through Netflix designs, gamification, as we will discuss in the webinar. And so this would allow them, or to capture their attention, to be more engaging to our discussion. And so for the second question, I do agree with my fellow panelists, no, that there is a need for us to adapt on the changing society and environment that we have in the present, which leans more on the digital and modern age of technology. And basically, the application of this idea that we can see evident today is how the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has allowed our education system to transform into flexible learning and distance learning. Although these strategies have been long existing before, it is more evident now today that we were able to conduct classroom discussions, to get to meet like what we are doing now, and to do our teaching strategies through online platforms. And so with this, it did not, or it changed our practices in education to apply this technology, even though we are experiencing these problems such as pandemic and the COVID-19 that we are experiencing. We were still able to do and continue with our education. So that would be all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for elaborating on the importance of, adapting and being flexible to new circumstances in our practice as educators, not just sustainability educators. Thank you for that. I'm going to assert my role as a panelist now by taking two rather more straightforward technical questions. And while I'm speaking, perhaps our panelists can think about their response to this question that I'm going to pose to them. And that is, how do you overcome or meet the challenges related to your circumstances? So for instance, if you don't have supportive school leaders, or there's a shortage of budget, or there's not enough resources, what kinds of advice can you give to teachers who are practicing ESD or sustainability education in less than optimal conditions, which I'm sure you've also faced? So I'm just going to leave you with that question while I approach or talk about or respond to two other comments, okay? So the first one is a question on the nature of sustainability education and its relationship to the 17 SDGs. What exactly does sustainability education entail? So I think that I'm going to take this question. I think that when we look at the 17 SDGs, we have to understand that there's a long history, right? Before the 17 SDGs that were written in 2015. Since 1975, we've been talking about environmental education. In 1992, with the Rio Agenda, it moved a little bit more to education. It's moved away from just talking about the environment to more engagements with economic, cultural, social circumstances that are impacting on environmental education. Then in 2002, we've got the decade, the decade for education for sustainable development. And there we look at, how the role of education really in supporting sustainable development. And then we have the 17 SDG goals. So there's been a long history really in this conversation about the relationship between education and environmental education and then sustainable development. And I would say in response to, okay, with all of this, what do educators do? I would say that what we would have to do is only what we can do. There is no way that any one of us can or should strive to integrate all 17 SDGs into our practice. Some of it is, so it would really depend on what we are teaching, how old our students are, and where we are teaching, right? So we should select the SDGs that are relevant to what we are teaching, and use these 17 SDGs more as, a guide. So like, for instance, if I have a curriculum where I have to teach, A, B, and C, I can teach A, B, and C as A, B, and C and, not refer to the SDGs. Or I could look at the SDGs and say, when I'm teaching A, B, and C, actually, I can address, SDG 1, SDG 5, that kind of thing. And then try to integrate that seamlessly, but don't try to do all 17. I think it goes beyond what any one teacher or one one subject or one school can do. The other question is really about inquiry-based learning and problem-based learning. There's a question on whether inquiry-based learning is used in problem-based learning. And I think that yes, inquiry-based learning is used in problem-based learning because it goes through Cope's experiential model, right? Where you spark the curiosity, you identify the problem, you write your research statement, you collect data, you analyze the data, you reflect on the data, you could or could not take action, but after your reflection, you go back to the next problem. So I think inquiry-based learning and problem-based learning are really closely aligned. But inquiry-based learning does not need to be problem-based learning. So you could actually do inquiry-based learning in your classroom, right? They don't have to go out there and solve a problem, but instead of teaching them the content, you start with a question, right? And then you give them the resources to enable them to answer the question. And it could all just be based on, you know, what you want to teach in your curriculum. It does not have to be PBL. So I hope that answers your question about the relationship between inquiry-based learning and PBL. Moving forward, let's look at the question I've posed our panelists or my fellow panelists on what are some of the challenges that they faced in terms of resourcing, at the school level, whether it's budgets, whether it's resources, whether it's support from school leaders. Let's start with who would like to go first? Whoever turns on their microphone first wins this.
Oh, okay.
All right, Ms. Aswani.
Okay. For me, when I have the difficulty with normally when I try to use technology, right? Of course you need something like need more budget or something, but when you don't have that, I try to think simple. Sometimes the cut up paper, it's also work out the same as using the technology, but the technology can help you in some aspect that you wanna teach the student in specific topic or something like that. And for me, I think luckily that I have joined this project, because actually I don't know much about 17 SDG, but after joining this develop the STEM lesson together with my friends, I also think about I try to put more questions that relate something about outside world, about how to develop the society, not only work in the box of the language teacher. That's it for me. When I have to solve the problem about what I need in teaching, I try to think about what I have first. So I don't feel depressed when I don't have something that I want.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Aswani, there's a question also on how you as an English teacher, what role you play as an English teacher within the problem-based learning presentation that you have just shared.
Actually, this project, they just need an English teacher to be interpreter and translator. So the English teachers joined the project, but because I also have interest, have the interest about how to develop the lesson active learning. So I suggest some idea and about the scenario that because the problem that we have is really at the back of our school. So the other teacher, science teacher come up with that, what state are we going, to put the state in the lesson. But I suggest how to make the student feel related, feel related to their daily life, and they feel, they are a part of the lesson by put them to make a role play. So a role play is something that the language teacher always use for the student, like I want them to be like this, like that, and then I think it's really helped the student to feel that they are not the student in the lesson, but they are also somebody in the lesson that work together with the teacher.
Okay, thank you so much for that, for sharing with us what you do, as well as your role as an English teacher within this project. Could we have the next speaker to share what your problems are, how you overcome them?
Hello. I think I'll go first. For the challenges perhaps in teaching the ESD is into structuring or actually integrating the ESD or the sustainability concept in our lesson. Perhaps this would be more challenging to other subjects or to other fields with little to no direct relevance or connection to ESD. As what we mentioned a while ago when talking about sustainability, most often what comes to our mind would be about environmental concerns, problems. However, it takes a deep understanding that it does not only revolve on the single environmental idea alone, but it took or it scopes to more complex situations and issues in the present. And so there are some challenges that we as teachers might find it hard to integrate these concepts of ESD or sustainability in our topics, such as, for example, in some of my history topics, I find it very hard on how I can relate it to concepts such as sustainability, perhaps more on other subjects that do not discuss about science or environment directly. And so these challenges can be perhaps solved or addressed by as teachers being more flexible and have the initiative on reading further, researching on how we can elaborate our knowledge into integrating such timely and relevant idea of the sustainability education.
Thank you. There was also a question, Ms. Divine, about Filipino students who may not be at all interested in the issue. How do you get them interested in SDGs? And actually, this is not just a Filipino student thing, right? This, I think most of us would agree that we do face that challenge. So there was a question on that. And do you think that by using technology, it's one way of getting students interested in the work that you're doing?
Yes, very much. I agree that technology plays an important role in making the students keep interested with our topic. And perhaps the question about how the students can have more interest or can apply the address to address the environmental problems and such SDG issues would be by letting them realize and identify the problems that they experience themselves or how they are directly affected by these issues. And by then, I think the students would be able to realize the significance of these concepts that we are teaching, that it's not only a theory, it's not only words or concepts that we get to meet in the classrooms or through PowerPoint presentations, but these are real life situations that we are affected as well as part of the society.
Thank you so much for that. Do we have any additional comments from our final panelists? Haji Muhammad, Zuaini, do you have anything to add?
Okay. For my side, how do we overcome? I'm not really sure to answer, but usually for my side, we have a supportive leaders, so we have no problem about that. But when talking about example resources, if I need a budget, I just ask for the school. If the school don't have money or resources, they will ask to the ministries just to help us, as long as it is benefited to the student and also to the school, and I think everything will be okay. That's it.
Thank you for such an optimistic note. I'm so glad that your school is supporting your efforts. That's really important. If there are any school leaders out there, you know, I'm sure you're doing your best to support your teachers as well. So kudos to all of you. We do have a comment about the difficulty teachers face competing with social media platforms, you know, and I wonder if our panelists have anything they would like to say about that. Perhaps to give you time to think, I will begin. So one of the things that in my research I found is that sometimes when we teach our students certain things, they find information on social media that may not be accurate. Also, they are easily distracted because of shorter attention spans due to, the way that social media is capturing the ways that people pay attention to things, so on and so forth. So I think that for us, it's really important to move away from a mode of teaching where we tell our students, but that we actually actively incorporate, right, the kinds of things they're exposed to outside of class into our teaching, and teach them the digital literacy skills to actually question what they see on social media as well. Because honestly, a lot of the things on TikTok, for instance, are not really accurate. And so I think the task then falls on us, right, when we are teaching our students about sustainable development, to really incorporate some of these the good as well as the not great things in social media in our classrooms, and then teach students, right, to think through and refute some of the things that they see. But I think we cannot ignore the impact of social media in our classrooms at all. Instead, we should use it as a tool, for sustainable development education. What do the rest of you think?
Okay, just recently, I just finished my unit 3 in the lesson, and which is about the media. And I think that the topic is the unit's very interesting and useful, because it asks the student to analyze whether the statement it's a fact or opinion. And I also elicit them, why do we have to be able to analyze whether it's the fact or opinion. And I think that will make them realize, when they're exposed to something in the social media, they have to think critically whether they want to believe that or not. And I think that one is also from the lesson. I also learned from that as well. Sometimes I forgot to think more about the technology, and also I also learned that together with the students. And at the end of the, like, for the production of this unit, I asked them to do the survey about how they use the media and how they do the content production about the media. Yeah, so when you ask this, how to say, for about the content production, it's how when we elicit from the students, it will be more varieties than it's come from the teachers, because sometimes they don't know the new things about the application. Yes, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from the panel?
Hello. For me, in our social science class, one thing that we always reiterate to the students as part of learning history and social science is to classify and identify sources of information, whether it's first-hand or secondary sources of information. And so every argument, or perhaps what they want to share, ideas and information, must be supported with factual data and evidences. And so I think social media platforms are very much threat to this critical thinking and, of course, validating information that we have in the present. And so by letting the students analyze different pieces of information, whether it's from a social media platform, a news article, identifying who is the author, the background of the author, what are the weaknesses and strengths of the arguments or the statements of these authors or writers, would allow the students to always look for such factors whenever they read informations or pieces of evidences in a specific platform, not only in social media, but as well as with other articles. As we know, not only social media platforms, but we have a lot of internet sources that are very much accessible to our students. And so by accessing this, they do not only need to read about it, but actually they need to be more careful and critical in accessing and getting this information that are available to everyone.
Thank you so much for that. And over to our final panelists to chime in on the social media issue.
All right. usually before I share some of the information to my student, I will ask my friends just to check is this sources correct or not. We also in Brunei have a team called School Based Community (SBC), which is SBC. They have different subject. For myself, I have SBC Geography, and usually we share standardized resources and media, so that everything that we share will be correct from the trustworthy sources. This is to reduce confusions. I think that's all for me.
Thank you so much. So really, we need to lean in to the internet. We've got to lean into, you know, the modern circumstances of modern learners and really use these as our resources rather than see it as an enemy to what we're trying to achieve in education. So thank you so much for that. We have time for probably one last question, and it's a big one. So the question really is about how do we know that our efforts are bearing fruit? How do we assess that our students are learning? And based on the questions, there are two dimensions here. One is just, well, you know, we've taught this. How do we know they've learned? How do we know we're successful? But the second one is really more to do with the long-term changes that we would like to see in students. So how do we know that what we've done is going to impact them in the long term, even after we're done teaching them? It's a big question. So would any of our panelists like to take this on first? Maybe we begin with Miss Divine. See?
All right. So I think that question is very, yes, as you mentioned, it's a big question and a challenge for us. It made me think, no, that how do we really get to assess that these strategies and topics reflect in their real life at the long term, no? Perhaps in short term basis, I can see it, or we can consider, no, the importance of collaboration and continuity among our colleagues or the teachers that we have in the department. Let's say for us in the social science teachers, we made sure that our competencies are aligned, starting from the grade 7 students, that the early level of the junior high school, to the grade 10 or to the higher levels of the junior high school. And so by that, we can assure that there is a continuity, that we have the same vision that we impose or that we get to instill with our students. From the grade 7, as we mentioned, we are teaching this SDG. So it's expected that when they go to higher level, they already have awareness and they have knowledge about these topics and these competencies. And so that would continue on how the teacher would still elaborate and make a deep learning or deeper strategy on how they can teach about these concepts. And that is very important, that we have cooperation among our colleagues to make this thing work or to achieve these results that we are aiming for. I think the most challenging, no, is how can we see the reflection of these learnings in our students at the long term. We cannot tell. However, in the present, there are manifestations or there are different instances that we can already observe that they are practicing this, such as students are already participating or using technology in a more useful and educational way. Students have become more aware in their environment, separating their simple actions like acknowledging their actions contributing to the problems that we have in the environment, and taking solutions, no, and being part of addressing these problems is also manifestations of how the students are actually imbibing these learnings that we have in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us the importance of a whole school approach to sustainability education, as well as, you know, the observable changes that you can see in your students when it is done right. So thank you so much for that. Let's hear from the other members of the panel. Ms. Aswani, would you like to go next?
Yes. So actually, for me, as from what I observed with the STEM lesson that I work with, I think the students really have. I mean, they feel happy when they come up with the prototype, and they also feel like, oh, I got the different solution. Every member have the different solution. That thing, it's really give them the idea that there's not only one answer for every problem. So for that thing, I think it can build to the, how to say, um the something that you mentioned before that. And as for the language teacher, since I struggle a lot with the class, sometimes I how to say, because the objectives to make the students speak English, right? Because in Thailand the students speak two languages and mainly Thai. So when they come up to me after class, when they come up to me and once ask me the question, how can I be good at English? I think that one made me feel some kind of accomplishment, that they want to know more after they learn my lesson, that kind of thing. That's it for me. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. So really, I mean, what you're doing as an English teacher is giving them the tools, right, to engage outside of with people outside of Thailand as well, with non-Thai speakers. So thank you so much for that. And and then again, the observable changes in your students' behavior and attitude towards language. Okay, and we have Haji Muhammad Zuwaini, who's really been a gentleman on this panel. He's always let the ladies go first, and
Ladies
now we
first.
will allow you to have the last word.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, how do I know the student learn? Usually in my class, I always ask the student before the end of my class, do you understand or not? If not, you ask me question and I try to answer. This to ensure that my learning objective is achieved in my lesson plan. But however, not understand not only the one that is important, you need to apply what you understand from my class, maybe to other subject or maybe to at home. Example, I'm teaching geography. I teach you maybe using ICT or PowerPoint. Maybe you can use this one to other subjects or at home teaching your family members, or not only ICT but also about sustainability. And we try to spread all the positivity among your friends or family members. I think that's all from me.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Yes, so I think that our panelists have given us some of their insights on how we can assess whether we've been successful. I would also like to add that perhaps we as educators need to be very mindful as well in making sure that when we plan our lessons, we also think about, okay, so what are some of the success criteria, right, for me or for my students? So having gone through this lesson, what do I need them to be able to do, to say, right? What are the and how do I provide opportunities for them to demonstrate that they have learned in my lessons, whether it's in the tasks you give them or in, as some of you, especially our last two presenters, in your action research activities, not action research, your problem-based learning activities, or as Miss Divine Mercy has done in terms of the kinds of reflections that she gets the students to do. I think in the short run, this also can provide us with some kind of understanding of how successful we've been. Of course, if you have education researchers coming to you and saying, oh, we'd like to work with you to study the impacts of certain interventions, I mean, that would be fantastic. Then you would know for sure whether it was working through the design of the research. So I think that we've reached the end of the question and answer segment as we've run out of time. But I do want to thank my fellow panelists for sharing with us their expertise, as well as sharing with us so candidly their thoughts, their successes, the things that, the problems they face and what they do to overcome them. You have inspired me, and I really appreciate sharing this space with you today. Um, I would also like to thank the HEAD Foundation. The team has shown so much commitment and passion every step of the way, from the time that we've put the book together, as well as, working together to prepare for this seminar. I think that the HEAD Foundation has really shown a heart for sustainability education, and education for sustainable development. And I have felt very privileged to work with them, as well as with all the authors of the handbook, all the presenters who are also authors of the handbook, and also to be able to interact with the audience through the Padlet and through the question and answer segments. So thank you all for being here today with me. I have had great pleasure in being your moderator, and I will now hand over the microphone, so to speak, to the HEAD Foundation for their final words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trisha, and thank you so much to all our panelists who have joined us today. I think watching the webinar for the past 2 days, I also have learned a lot of invaluable lessons from everyone. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the audience as well for joining us over 2 days. So let me just make some closing announcements before I invite our Director of Operations, Mr. Vignesh Naidu, back on to say a final few words. I'll now share my screen. I hope you'll stay with us for these important announcements, as they include a lot of important links that you will need to know of. All right, so I think we've covered a lot of content over the past 2 days. Here are 3 important links for you to take note of. First of all, do join us for the free online Getting to Zero workshop happening at the end of October. You will have some time to sign up. Please register through the bit.ly link or the QR code. We will also be sending a follow-up reminder to all the audience members here to send you the link after the webinar is over. A gentle reminder, the workshop will be in English, and you'll need to sign up in groups of 3 to 5 people. When you sign up in a group, you have to be in the same physical space as your team members, because we will be sending you a card deck and we will simulate a game. So please do not find online friends and try and play the game together. It will be very difficult. So just keep that in mind. You have to be in the same physical space as your group members on the day of the workshop. Now, for the other 2 links, we've been plugging this since yesterday. Do download the handbook for free, and I think do also consider ordering a hard copy of the book if you'd like. I think we still have ample stock. If you think it's beneficial for you, your community, your school, please do put an order in. We will seek to fulfill them. However, for overseas shipments, please do give us up to 3 months to fulfill your order, because we may have some trouble clearing customs. So yes, and I think finally, I think many people have asked about the certificates. So to reiterate again, after this Zoom session is over, Zoom will prompt you to fulfill a post-webinar survey. So do click the link to go to the post-webinar survey, and once you submit that survey, the link to register for your certificate will be made available in the submission message. So just wait for the webinar to be over, fill up the survey, and once you submit it, you can register for your certificate. So don't worry about that. For people who are watching on, for example, someone else's device, please do state when you type in your name or email whose device or account you used, because we will be cross-checking your attendance with the Zoom report. So I do notice that there are a couple of you with repeated names in the audience. So, do state which account you've used to watch the webinar, and we'll follow up from there. Yep. And a final announcement about the book. Currently, it's only in English. If you go to our website, you'll notice that we usually translate the book into several different ASEAN languages. However, we are working on the translations currently, as the book is quite thick. So do bear with us. Currently, only the English version is available. but we hope to start on the translations very soon and update you about their release by the coming months. So if you want updates on the translations and any of our other activities, please sign up to our mailing list. I think we'll drop the link somewhere in the chat. Yep, thank you very much. Yes, and I think that's all for the closing announcements. Thanks everyone once again. I'd like to invite our Director of Operations, Mr. Vignesh Naidu, to give the final closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Hilary. And a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar, the two-part webinar. We had three speakers yesterday and another 3 today. I hope you had enjoyed the opportunity to learn the best practices from your fellow educators from across Asia. Do try these best practices in your own classrooms. Do get a copy of the handbook, a hard copy or an e-copy that can be downloaded free of charge. Use the handbooks. Use the suggestions that your colleagues have shared during the webinar today. I know it's a Friday evening, and let me not be the one to keep you from enjoying your Friday evening. So just before I close today's session, I'd just like to once again share the thanks of the HEAD Foundation for our moderator, Dr. Tricia Xiao, for all our panelists who shared in today's session and yesterday's session, to our MC, Ms. Hilary Lowe, and to all who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to put this webinar together. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I hope you have found it to be helpful. But remember, sustainability begins with you. Change your practices, change your behavior, bring them into the classrooms that you lead, because the young people, the examples you set for them, that will determine what this world will look like in the future. So have a very pleasant evening and a very enjoyable weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much and see you soon. Goodbye.